are here today to bring to your attention some information Unite the People believes is exculpatory in Mr. Daystar Peterson's case, professionally known as Tory Lanez. Recently, we've been made aware
What's going on here?
Of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, the media had an extreme slant against Tory during his trial and refused to acknowledge the gaping holes in the prosecution's case, in Megan's testimony, in the witness testimony, all that. And after he got convicted, it's like the court of public opinion was like, well, of course he got convicted, he did it. Not understanding that just because you got convicted of a crime does not mean you did it. Right. I'm sorry. Did we forget the OJ case? Everyone knows OJ did that shit. Everybody does. It's like a foregone conclusion. No one, even people who supported OJ, no one actually argues he was innocent.
Yeah.
He just had a great legal team and the prosecution shit the bed. But, so if that was the case, then why do you think then that just because he was convicted or Jonathan Majors was convicted, that means that they're actually guilty of the crime?
Because they hold biases against people because they just don't like them.
That's really what it is. And it's like, and they want to go along with whatever weird narrative that they want to push, whatever weird Me Too narrative. Because I'm sorry, the motive for the shooting was
ridiculous.
Was that she sold more records than him. Any rational person that hears that and they think, yeah, that's the reason why he did it, you've lost your fucking mind. You've lost your actual mind. You're cracked.
You hear that and it's just like, bitch, go on about your day. Nobody gives a fuck. Like,
nobody
it's not
cares.
A thing. Because honestly, you two are not the only people in the industry for competition.
Tory's piping every girl everywhere. Yet somehow you think you're the first girl he fucked who sold more records than him?
But she's trying to make it seem like they're in competition in the music industry when y'all not even in parallel.
They're not.
They're not.
And on top of that, it's like, okay, so you think that he cared so much that you sold more than him that he would shoot you. But
that doesn't make sense.
Wait, but Kylie, the same girl he was going after that night, she could buy everything he owns. She's way richer than him.
Yeah.
She's a Kardashian.
Yeah.
Yet somehow, that was cool, but you selling a couple more records than him upset him enough to fire a firearm at you?
Right.
Bullshit.
During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell.
Coincidence? I think not.
Maybe not, right? A lot of people are insinuating that Rock Nation and them were behind both pushing this bullshit trial against Tory and were behind making sure he stayed in jail, getting weird fucking restraining orders against a man already in prison, and then potentially did this because they don't want Megan to be publicly discredited.
Yep.
Especially after they put all that support behind her. So, I mean, it's looking very conspiracy-ish to me.
Not only that, like, there literally is a history of when women did bad things, it was seen as they couldn't do these bad things.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Impossible. But even if they did do these heinous things, because there are reports, even back in the 1800s, if they did do these things, they still didn't want to punish these women as severely as men. They wouldn't even give them the death penalty, and some of them did call for the death penalty, honestly, because the things that they did call for the death penalty for these women, but they would put them in jail for life.
Yeah. Y'all ever heard of Lizzie Borden? The girl that chopped up her whole family with an axe? When was that? In the 1800s. She was acquitted.
Bitch.
Like it was one of those, and this ain't like the 1800s where we didn't know, no one knew, no DNA, no. They like found her in the house with the axe with the bodies, and she was acquitted. Why? Because the people couldn't conceive of a woman being able to do something like that.
Yep.
And I feel like society still has holdovers of that.
Yep.
Where women say things and they can't conceive of the fact that this woman could be lying.
Right.
They can't conceive of the fact that she could have malicious intent.
Yes, it's
they can't conceive of that fact. And women who have malicious intent take full advantage of it. Jesus Christmas, bro.
Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out. But given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover.
Yeah.
Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Miss Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry, Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do.
I just find it very, very sad that it took up until this man almost losing his life for you to come out and stand by his side just because you didn't want to drag these girls down.
Because the conversations that he overheard, he'd been overheard them. Mm-hmm. He overheard them during the trial. It's only when something happened to bro that he's like, wait, really?
Right.
But you were fine with letting him serve the 10 years? You ought to get kicked in the back of your head. That's a fact.
Like, it's disgusting to me that a man will literally see another man who understands a man's struggle will literally sit back, shut the fuck up. I mean, I get it.
And watch him sit in jail for 10 years.
Right. I get it. Mind your business. But at the same time, homie.
Because I could see, because he's a driver, right? So you're a driver, you overhear a lot of shit. Remember we were watching Yellowstone?
Yeah.
And the driver overheard what he was saying, but the driver fucked with him, so he wasn't going to say nothing?
Yeah.
If that driver had snitched, John Dutton would have got impeached 6 episodes earlier. You feel me?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
And then he might not be able to pick up a better job because everybody will know that
he's a driver. So if you're a driver and people find out that you're the driver that tells when he hears shit,
you're not gonna get a job.
Right? Because in the industry, especially for famous people and shit like that, security drivers, they're supposed to be quiet. Yeah. Once you don't be quiet, you never gonna get that same type of job again. True. That being said, I'm fucking telling you, liar. You liar! I'm fucking telling you. No way.
Yeah.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Miss Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
Yep. And that's the information that's consistent with the facts and the testimony. The dance, bitch, dance. Me and my girlfriend meaning Megan to Kelsey. We never had a fight. Nails is on the floor.
Yep.
People saw them fighting. We never fought. Like, Meg testified they did not fight. She testified to that. She's a fucking liar, dude.
And let's not forget, in regards of Rock Nation and Meg and them, let's not forget, meanwhile, Tory's still in jail, they put a restraining order on him.
Right, they're going to the court every 2 days. They're going to the court to do something else to Tory. It's like he goes on a podcast, proclaims that he's innocent, and they threaten the people who he went to with cease and desist, talking about they're going to sue for defamation. You
That has
understand?
nothing to do with y'all.
You understand that even if someone convicts you of a crime, you are free to proclaim your innocence. You understand that, right? It's not defamation. I didn't do it. Fuck you. What are you talking about? As if there's no scenario where a jury could be irrational. There's a whole sector of law dedicated to overturning irrational jury verdicts. Like, what do you lay people who aren't attorneys don't even know that. They're just like, oh, he got convicted, that's it. Fuck no, that's not it. What are you talking about? Cases get overturned on appeal all the time.
Right.
How many people got freed in the early 2000s and late 1990s when they started using DNA. How many people for wrongful convictions? Juries make mistakes all the fucking time.
It's just mind-blowing that it to me that people are aware that innocent people are in jail for crimes that they did not commit, yet they will sit here and condemn somebody of a crime that may not even be connected to them, nothing. But y'all understand that there are people in jail for a crime that they didn't commit.
The whole thing
they just want to wrap up the fucking case.
Yep. It's nothing but a narrative that they're pushing. That's all it is. Because it's like the narrative is he's still harassing her even from jail. It's like, man, no one believes that except for the shade room.
Didn't touch that gun. Never fired the gun.
Nobody believes that shit, bro.
This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw two women fighting, two men break up the fight, one man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Miss Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete.
Never possessed a firearm.
Did not assault Miss Pete.
Never possessed a firearm because they're firearm enhancement charges. Never possessed a firearm.
In a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson.
Why is that?
Even though unknown DNA was found on the gun.
Because they already knew who they wanted to put in jail.
Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense?
Which is a Brady violation.
Why wasn't the driver of the car?
And the case should be overturned immediately.
Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again
he's getting
simply
out.
not given to the defense?
Maybe, maybe not. Again, Brady violation.
It should have been taken.
He may lose
Unite
a
the people's
technical
understanding,
situation.
regular
It's clear to everyone that he's innocent. But if I recall correctly, actual innocence ain't a basis for fucking
Excuse me?
for appeal. Right?
What?
I'm serious. You can't really. How do I explain this? The province of the trial court is to hear evidence. The province of the appellate court is not necessarily to hear evidence. It's to
Interesting.
evaluate like the propriety in which the trial took place.
Okay.
So, were anyone's rights violated to the extent that there needs to be a new trial?
Okay.
And obviously there's a basis for saying the jury's verdict was irrational. You can appeal on that basis. But
what about new evidence?
But that too.
Okay.
Newly found evidence that was not available at trial.
Or admitted evidence.
Well, nothing's admitted because there's no trial going on. But
I know, but he didn't something that wasn't provided that should have been, like he said.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a Brady violation. If the prosecution withholds exculpatory evidence for the defense, that's immediate grounds for a new trial or just dismissal of the case entirely.
Okay.
Right, but certainly he has to have a new trial because that by definition it means he did not have a fair trial.
Right.
So he has to get a new trial or they just vacate the whole thing and let him out, one or the other.
That's what I'm thinking, that they would vacate him and let him out. Like,
yeah,
this is
but the
ridiculous.
other thing is that they already submitted their appeal.
Okay.
So
they would have to go through that process.
So they already submitted their appeal. You don't get mad different appeals. You fucking won.
Yeah, then no.
So if you already submitted it, the argument that the government will make is that, well, this shit wasn't in the appeal.
Yeah.
But they may try to ask for leave to the court to amend it to add in this information about this new witness.
Okay. He better get out.
Also, that's hearsay, by the way. So
what? Oh,
he's saying what somebody else said.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're gonna need a way around the hearsay rule. I gotta look at the exceptions. I'm sure there probably is one that might fit, but you have to. There are like 8 or 10 of them, something like that. But you have to look through them and see, because on the face of it, that's hearsay anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And she has fucking immunity, so that's not good either, right?
LAPD practice at a crime scene like that. Anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Miss Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate?
Rock Nation.
Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature
The appearance of
his
impropriety.
trial and his conviction. It is our contention that he was wrongly convicted.
Yep.
And while we at first were willing to let the process play out, it is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Gianno Caldwell, the media member who was working on that op-ed for the New York Post. Thank you.
You know shit going crazy when they writing op-eds about your shit and saying you innocent.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming today.
New York Times op-eds have brought light to so many different, like, very important and prominent causes since its existence.
Sorry, can you give at least one example?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But
I just wanted to know, like, if you had one.
yeah, but there's important shit that, I don't know, like important political stuff. Like, I think there might have been one about the Nixon break-in, the Watergate break-in.
Okay.
So shit like that, where like the op-ed leads to greater public scrutiny on the thing, and as a result, things change.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
It starts a movement for things to
right.
change.
So very interesting that something like, you know, a rapper's conviction for a shooting somehow finds its way into a New York Times op-ed, right? That's more. That's far more prominence than you see from these type of things. You see what I'm saying?
So are you, in regard to that, are you trying to say that because their possibility might be meddling within Rock Nation, that's the reason why they picked up on it or something?
No. Okay. That's part of it, but that's not the reason. Okay. The reason, I'm sure that helped, right, is that it's not just a jury issue. The jury fucked up. It's not just that. It's not just the prosecution did. It's more of a big power. It's more of a big power thing where it's like this big corporation seems to be attempting to railroad an innocent man for their own profit. Right. That and the local government, the police, the investigators, they seem to have gone along with it or engaged in extreme negligence. Yeah. Right.
My name is Gianno Caldwell. That is spelled Gianno. Caldwell, Caldwell. I am the founder of the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety at caldwellinstitute.org. I am also a member of the press for almost a decade now. I've been looking into Daystar Peterson's case for almost 6 months now, professionally known as Tory Lanez. And after reviewing the evidence, the reporting, and the legal analysis, I've come to the conclusion that Tory Lanez was railroaded by the former district attorney, George Gascon. He was also wrongly convicted. I believe if Jesus Christ was Tory Lanez's attorney, George Gascon would do whatever in his power to ensure that Tory Lanez lost that case.
It don't matter.
Tory Lanez's defense team have alleged the withholding of exculpatory evidence, prosecutorial misconduct, among other issues that I was compelled to write an opinion piece for the New York Post. It is true.
What's the Post, not the Times?
The New York Post.
Not as good, but still, still counts.
Reached out to 3 parties. One being George Gascon, Megan Pete's team, and Kelsey Harris. It is also true.
Because that's real suspicious. Yeah. Right? It's like, no one knew about this. This wasn't public. Yeah. So a new witness comes forward. I'm surprised something didn't happen to the witness. But new witness comes forward. You tell 3 people, and the people it's most likely to hurt are the ones that respond. Yep. And then something immediately happens to the defendant.
And I'm sorry, we got to go back again, circle back again. She was so gun-ho and keeping this man in that she put a restraining order on him meanwhile he's in jail. You can't go harder than that.
Yeah, apparently you're harassing her if you say that you didn't do it.
You're innocent.
Right.
And Megan's team was the only
Fast
ones
forward to
that
now.
responded back for that request for comment.
He never touched that gun. He never touched that gun.
I had some glaring questions, and that was the reason for this op-ed. Things didn't make any sense to me, many issues in this case, and I was shocked by the lack of interest from the media to ask
I wonder
simple
why.
questions.
Me too, that's
There
why.
were multiple people with gunshot residue on their hands that night. Why didn't all individuals have the residue tested, their DNA tested on the weapon? That's a legitimate question.
Another question. Why was it so rushed during the holidays that he didn't get to finish the rest of the trial?
Well, the prosecution will say the defense is the one that did that.
His own people. Oh, okay.
Right, because they wanted to get it done before Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And remember
I
that
remember you were telling me that, yes.
the driver was unavailable and that he was alleged he was going to come forward and support this same narrative, that it wasn't Tory, that Tory tried to stop her, that it was Kelsey that tried to shoot her. But
and wasn't Tory supposedly talking about possibly
taking a stand, but they decided he against that because the court was going to allow them to question him on prior incidents and criminal charges and shit like that.
I see. So they thought they were going to demolish him.
Right. He's got a gun he's got a gun tattoo somewhere, and they're just like they were going to go all in on that, and they were and the defense thought that it would be unnecessary for him to testify because, and I agree with that. In hindsight, it's a bad choice, right? But looking at it contemporaneously as it was happening, and even looking back at it now, I would argue that they never proved their case. The prosecution did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's what the defense was hanging their hat on. Since they didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, they thought we don't need the driver. And he doesn't need to take the stand because this testimony is all over the place. And it was. Yeah. A rational person could have sat there and said, I don't know who shot her. I thought at least one juror would say, I don't know who it was, so I've got to vote not guilty. Because that's how you do. Yeah. If you can't figure out beyond a reasonable doubt that it was him, then it wasn't him and he's not guilty. That's how the justice system works.
Yeah. But last night we looked up whether or not he had additional charges for those. He didn't get charged for those.
He didn't get convicted.
Yeah, convicted. Sorry,
right.
So he didn't get convicted of those.
You have a criminal record if you were convicted.
Yeah.
Right, but you being charged or other things happening,
right.
they questioned him. They were going to question him about that. They didn't want that shit to come out in front of the jury. It doesn't matter.
According to Tory, according to the prosecution, Tory was excluded from the clip of the gun, and according to Tory's defense team, they said DNA analysis showed that there was a 0.01% chance that Tory touched the actual gun itself. Another piece that stood out to me.
Like, where was that?
That
trial.
The prosecution alleged Tory made confessing to a crime. I listened to that call. I'm sure many of you have as well.
That was bullshit.
I didn't hear a confession.
Nope.
But what really shocked me about it is if my best friend was shot maliciously by someone just 2 to 3 hours before, I wouldn't have answered the call, or if I did, I wouldn't calmly have a conversation
with that person.
First thing would be like, why'd you do that?
And certainly, I would ask, why did you shoot my friend?
Yep. That wasn't
None of
said
that.
by,
Nope.
by her.
I would never have given you my current location out of fear of you finishing the job.
Yep.
That was something that stood out to me. I also, in my op-ed, discussed Kelsey Harris pleading the Fifth Amendment.
Honestly, fuck both of them.
She wasn't accused of anything by Megan Pete or the police, and to my knowledge, she wasn't under any investigation.
The defense didn't even say
so
that it was her.
The Fifth? What also shocked me is the prosecution gave her immunity.
Yep.
Corruption.
What did she do? Is there an allegation of her doing something? I'm not aware of that. Maybe some of you can answer that question today. During the time of trial, George Gascon, just to take you back to where we were at that particular point, he had just barely won a recall attempt. He lost support in many key demographics.
You're talking about his election.
Crime was up in Los
the election
Angeles
of the
County.
DA.
Oh, okay.
And this case
was politically motivated.
Would have been a silver bullet for him potentially winning.
Right.
His policies obviously were bad and people were harmed. So that didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. At the heart of this injustice
but that was
is
his
the
intent.
misuse of gun enhancement charges, a sentencing tool intended for the most dangerous and violent offenders. In Tory Lanez case, these enhancements were not supported by evidence. But George Gascon, interestingly enough, who is someone who regularly would drop enhancements or not recommend them, chose to provide enhancements to Tory, and in his case, in any given situation, according to legal analysts I've spoken with, he would do 1 or 3 years if he did it without the enhancement.
Yep.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Because even the story that was told is him shooting at the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what she said. Dance, bitch, dance, huh?
He didn't shoot at you. Even the story told, he didn't shoot at you. He shot at the ground.
Right.
Now, that's still very reckless, especially considering that it hit you.
Yeah.
Or a shrapnel hit you.
Yeah.
But that's not the same charge you get for directly aiming at somebody.
Yeah.
That's reckless.
Literally an intent to kill.
Right. Arguably, you didn't have any intent to kill. Right.
Yeah.
It's just the recklessness. Somebody
injure.
was harmed.
Yeah.
So
The intent to
right. So
injure.
you catch a recklessness. He would have never did 10 years. There's no way. Right. He's right. It would have been a 1 to 3, and then he would have got out in like a year and a half. He would already be free.
Why did George Gascon choose to pursue these enhancements? You know, there's cases I've been looking through which George Gascon has pursued, many in which he utilized these enhancements. A couple come to mind that I would like to reference here. One, Raymond Danger Gonzalez, a Mexican mafia gang member involved in a premeditated murder of 2 young men in 2017.
No enhancements.
Despite the brutality of the crime, Gascon did recommend enhancements. You premeditated murdered a teenager and another individual. Brutal crime. Why would you
Questionable.
recommend enhancements, but you
Right.
would recommend them for Tory? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Nope.
He also didn't pursue sentencing enhancements for the senseless murder of General Hospital actor Johnny Victor in Los Angeles in 2024. There's a lot of issues with this case. Many I think that the media should be pursuing
Absolutely.
all angles of it.
Yep.
This
We
is
should
not
not
right.
allow there to be unanswered questions.
Yep.
We should pursue open questions without fear or favor to anyone. That includes Mr. Tory Lanez.
But the thing is that pursuing this narrative requires pursuing the narrative that Megan is a liar. Because there's only 2 outcomes here. Either Tory did what she said, or she got on the stand and fucking lied.
Yep.
And if you argue that she lied, oh no, you're not believing victims? Oh no. That's where that goes. And that's why the media doesn't want to do that. They don't want to be the first publication to go after this so-called victim and say that she's a liar.
That's like going back to what we said earlier. In the 1800s, it's inconceivable that a woman can do something like this. Oh my God. We don't want to defame a woman. We don't want to drag her down.
Right, there's no
Woman
way.
power. No. Women can be evil too.
Yeah. And it's clear that she's evil, and it's clear that she continues to perpetuate this shit. She's continuing to go after him.
She doesn't want her image, her reputation, or her career to stop. So she's lying. That's what it is. Let's be for real, people. You know what? People who do this are children.
Yeah.
They're children. And you know what we do to children? You put them in timeout. She
Yeah.
need to go to jail.
She's lying like a child who got caught lying and just keeps lying to your face. Even so.
Just to protect herself, her reputation, her image, and her career.
And but the thing is, all she had to do was, he didn't do anything to you. So why are you after him? You're just mad that he was fucking your friend.
Because she's jealous.
All you had to do was, when they came through, if you didn't want nobody to go to jail, simply say, I didn't see what happened. We're done here.
Yeah, you could have done that too.
Get the fuck out of here. You didn't have to snitch on Kelsey. You could have said nothing.
And we all know that fact was a lie, that he was upset that she
sold more than
right.
like bullshit.
We all know women act out on people act out on jealousy. Not only women, men too.
Right, you kidding me? You realize that your friend is fucking the same guy that you've been fucking? And y'all fighting out right now in the same car while y'all drunk? And she's also mad that Tory trying to talk to a different third girl.
Right.
Yeah, that's where the crash out comes from. Megan's big fucking Sasquatch ass tried to fucking beat up Kelsey, and Kelsey's little. That's what happened.
Right. How many crimes do we go through on a regular basis as cops trying to figure out in regards of jealousy, that person like the man attacking the girl attacking the man, whatever the case.
Right.
It's a known thing. People do this on a regular, but for y'all to sit here and agree that she's jealous because he's jealous because he
record sales?
Right, record sales? Like, come on.
Like, it's just like the same thing where you said dance, bitch, dance. It's like, who believed that when it came out of her mouth, bro?
Stop it.
Nobody believed that.
Stop it.
I don't believe that shit. Is she Yosemite Sam? That's what we're talking about. It's Looney Tunes shit we're talking about. What are you saying?
Like, let's make sense of it. Like, let's make sense of this, because it doesn't make sense.
Dance,
and
bitch,
y'all
dance.
just was so egregious to get this case wrapped up and blame a man.
Right.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And yet no one heard that, right? People who tested, even people who corroborated what you said, no one heard dance, bitch, dance. No one heard that. Liar.
Not only that, the interview with Gail. That was fucking egregious too.
She went on there and just fucking lied. Just straight lied to everybody. And then popped up later, well, the reason why I lied, because shut the fuck up.
And then had the
care about
audacity to
that
make a show about it and lie and tell the truth.
And, right. So, it just shouldn't have mattered. Right?
Yeah.
It's like to me it's like talking to a baby, because you think that you're smarter than me, and you're not, because the one thing that would have provided an alternative motive for the alternative killer would be that you were fucking Tory and she was fucking Tory. So when you say it doesn't matter, how the fuck does it not matter? The only other person who could have did it was Kelsey, and this would have given her motive to do it. Stop it.
In his letter from the Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we take those words seriously, we must act when injustice is allowed to fester."
Innocent people should not be subject to going to prison, period.
Public safety after my innocent teenage brother was murdered in Chicago on June 24, 2022. I stand firmly for public safety, for victims' rights, and for holding criminals accountable. But justice also demands that we protect the innocent and stand against politically motivated prosecution.
Yes, sir.
This is what I believe to happen here.
Yep.
When we imprison the innocent, while violent offenders
You do a disservice to
which is
everyone.
what George Gascon has often done, we undermine the very foundation of our legal system. Mr. Peterson was never given a fair trial, free from bias, political interference, and media-driven pressure. His continued incarceration erodes public trust and diverts focus from the real work of keeping our community safe. Further, while incarcerated, Mr. Peterson was recently stabbed in prison, as many of you know. A tragic incident that underscores the urgency of this situation.
14 times or something
and
like that.
the risk to his life while
Surprised he
his case
survived, to be
remains
honest.
Unaddressed. Governor Newsom,
People get hit 2-3 times and die.
Yeah.
I respectfully urge you to issue a pardon for Daystar Peterson, known as Tory Lanez,
I doubt he would do it.
in a full and impartial review of his case. California must not be a state where justice is driven by headlines instead of evidence. And in the case of George Gascon, that was often the case. So I encourage everyone here to go to caldwellinstitute.org, CALDWELL Institute.
Yeah, see? Miss me with the bullshit, because like I said, if you don't got a law degree, I'm not arguing with you. If you disagree with me, I'm not arguing with you. You don't know what you're talking about. When someone is accused of a crime, they're innocent until proven guilty. If you cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they did the crime, they are necessarily, as a matter of law, they are not guilty. Therefore, that is the verdict that you must render as a juror. And if you do not render such a verdict, you have by definition rendered an irrational verdict that should be subject to appeal. This isn't that complicated. It's not. All this shit that we saw, at the very worst, to Tory Lanez, a rational person would come up with the conclusion that I don't know who did it. It could have been him, it could have been her, and I don't know who did it. And since you don't know who did it, you can't risk putting an innocent man in prison.
Right.
That's how this works. So when everybody's like, oh, well, they convicted him. Why did they convict him? Who the fuck listened to all that testimony and was like, yeah, everything happened exactly the way she said? How?
Right.
How?
It's him. It's him.
Right, literally. Why? Just everything a man does is wrong. Like, the fuck out of here.
Everything
son.
a man does is grape. Sorry. Like,
But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's how y'all sound. Ridiculous. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments. Should they free that boy or keep him in jail for 10 years? You let me know. If you say he should stay in jail, you stupid. I said what I said.